I cannot believe this room. I want to hug half of you, and I don't know the other half. I want to just thank, first of all, Sunlight Inc. I suppose you're all wondering who Sunlight Inc. is. Is anybody wondering that? Raise your hand if you are. Yeah. Sunlight Inc. Sunlight Inc. is Bonnie and Craig Connolly. And Bonnie and Craig Connolly have been with SowHope from the time it was first thought of. Bonnie was the first person I told SowHope about. Thank you. Thank you, my friends. I love you deeply, and nobody can do this alone. You've been with us the whole time, so thanks so much. There are so many other people in this room. I wish I could thank everybody individually who have volunteered, who have donated, who have prayed for me, supported us, and brought their expertise to the organization. There are many sponsors here tonight, people who have hosted tables, and I just want to thank you for inviting your friends. I hope it says a long and wonderful relationship starting tonight. Thank you everyone for coming. Well, SowHope was birthed from a very nagging feeling that I had traveling around the third world and seeing what women were going through. The ideas of what I saw would haunt me when I got back. Images of women doing the daily activities that were intense, hard work, carrying water, carrying wood, working in the fields. That's me a couple seconds late, so sorry. I'm a photographer, so you can imagine how much I love the delay. It's great. It's good. In case you don't like what I say, just watch that. Thank you, Philip. Back to the images of the women. Basically, traveling around the third world, you cannot believe what you see. It is absolutely stunning. And I think the fact that I'm a photographer somehow gave me, there's a little clock here, so I'm trying to see it, gave me maybe an advantage, or maybe you want to call it a disadvantage, of seeing things that for some reason just go unseen. And a lot of injustice in the world is just unseen. It's accepted, it's business as usual, and until somebody, usually until somebody comes from the outside and sees it for what it is, it just goes on. And honestly, I think that's what the plight of women is like in the world. The poorer that women are, the worse their lot in life. Women are by nature the nurturers of the world. They bear life. They bring life. They're the ones that feed the families. They care for the children. And in impoverished areas, that is an almost impossible task. Now, we've targeted the areas of the world where people make less than $2 a day. And when we say $2 a day, we mean $2 a day. The $2, it's the purchasing power parity of what $2 US can buy here. And about half the world lives on that or less. So the women that we deal with are the impoverished women of the world. And about 1 billion people in the world live on less than $1. Now it's $1.25 a day. And they're called the extreme poor. And that's really our target, because those women, in my opinion, live a subsistent life. they're treated like second-class citizens. There's not very much honor for them. They act like, they live like slaves. They have to produce the food, and they're just, it's just very difficult. Very few human rights for them. We have learned, we've been doing SowHope now for 9 years, and we've learned a lot about poverty during that 9 years. And we've learned a lot about women, impoverished women. And I want to emphasize just a few things that we've learned. Three things. We've learned a lot more, but I'm going to narrow it down to that. I call them the unintended consequences of helping women. And it's not negative, it's positive. One is that when you help women, you're not just helping the woman. You're helping her children. Two is that as soon as women have their basic needs met, they immediately turn and help their neighbors. They love to help people poorer than them. They are compassionate and generous. So when you help a woman, you're not just helping her, you're not just helping her children, you're actually helping her neighbors too. The third thing we've discovered, is that women really want peace. And in the impoverished areas of the world, there's a lot of conflict. They kind of go hand in hand. But we've noticed that when women are empowered, they will do the brave and dangerous work that it takes to bring peace. So first I'll talk about the children. From the beginning, I knew that it would be good to help women. I knew that women needed basic holistic care. They need medical help. They need help delivering babies because they're illiterate. They don't have any education. No one's ever told them anything about their anatomy. They deliver babies alone, and the death rate is very high. Maternal mortality rate is very high. So they need help just delivering babies. Even cursory help from a midwife is huge help for impoverished women. They need help for their physical, emotional, the physical and emotional damage that comes from abuse and rape. Impoverished women are overwhelmingly victims of abuse and vicious abuse. So they need help. They need help with that. They need spiritual help to overcome their hopelessness. They are largely illiterate. That makes them so vulnerable. They need literacy. They need to be able to read. They need to be able to do basic math so they can count money. They need a little bit of money to start a business. And when you give women a little bit of money, it makes a huge difference. They're really careful with it. When women can have some economic empowerment, even very basic, the first thing they do is feed their children, house their children, clothe their children. They send them to school. That is the #1 thing that women love to do, is see their kids get educated. I knew that it's not that big of a surprise to me that helping women helps kids, because I think about my own mom. She had 5 kids. She used to work a night shift to try to help us. Nobody cared more about us than our mom did. And around the world, that's just true. Nobody cares more about kids than their moms. There are so many international organizations that target children. And we go in and we help the kids, and the moms stay to the back, because every mother wants their child to be helped. But this really only further increases their lack of dignity. It's embarrassing. Think about you. If someone would help you, if you have children and somebody wants to come and help your kids, of course you're going to let them do it because you love your kids. You give up your own dignity for that. But if they would come and help you and empower you to be able to help your children, it builds the family. We didn't think about that before. people go and they help kids, and it's really fun to help kids, and I'm a photographer, and I love taking pictures of kids too. But the truth is that when the war comes, when the disease comes, when the political unrest comes, we all leave in a hurry. And who's left to care for the children? It's their moms, of course. I asked women in the DRC, women who had been brutally raped in the war. It's the rape capital of the world. I was in a room with 10 women. All of them had been raped. And they were telling me their stories, and I couldn't believe their stories. And I said finally, how do you go on? How do you cope? They said, we don't have a choice. If we don't go on, our children will die. And if we don't go on, the children of our sisters who have died, they'll die. We have to keep going. And they live for the children. If you want to help children, help their mothers. I want to illustrate the story of Catherine. Catherine was one of the first brave women to come forward in a microloan project in Uganda. The first project was for piglets, and this was a very profitable business. She immediately paid school fees for her kids. With more loans, she moved on to goats, cows, and agriculture. Finally, taking a government-sponsored midwife class, she took a loan to build a small room next to her house. This house was used as a birthing clinic, and on average, she delivers 8 babies a week. There was nobody delivering babies before her in this village. Listen to what her daughter Grace says about the microloan, the result of the microloans.
I never expected before.
Really?
But when you came, now I'm ready. I finished now, senior 4, and I thank God for that.
Grace got to finish high school. She never before thought she would be able to do that. She thanked us profusely for the development that we brought to her village, to her mother. She told us that her mother worked harder than anybody she ever met. And she probably does. Catherine's the kind of person that they told us she sleeps about 3 hours a night. Everything that she put her hand to, she made a profit from. She's actually one of the most powerful women in the village now. She's well respected by our partners there, Isaac and Speranza. These partners are both government health workers. They live in a different village, about an hour away, but they do the projects in both villages. They've had several projects, microfinance, literacy, and all these projects worked out very well for them. They had a grain grinding mill that they put into into Catherine's small village, and the group of women, they call them a cooperative. Catherine is the leader of that cooperative, and the cooperative runs the grain mill, and they sell the grain in the community, and the cooperative is making a lot of money from this grain mill. Everything they try is successful because the women are working very hard. Even the government noticed that they're being developed, and they've targeted this little village. It's a remote village, but they've targeted it for infrastructure, things like actual roads and electricity. The women decided they wanted to build a bigger and better birthing clinic because they knew there are a lot more women around. They wanted to put it next to a main road. And the government noticed this too, and they said, well, this is a really nice clinic you've got here, and it requires government oversight. And they said, unfortunately, Catherine doesn't qualify because she's illiterate. And we got the news from Isaac. He said, yeah, they can't build we won't be able to run the clinic because we don't have a person there to do it. What about you? I said, he can't do it because he's too busy with his other job. Well, what does it take? What would it take to get somebody qualified? Oh, it would have to be somebody who already went through high school. They have to go for 2 more years for training, nurses training, and then they could run it. I said, well, how much does it cost? And I said, well, why don't you do that? They said, well, it's very expensive. I said, well, what would it cost? He said, it's about $1,200 a year for the training. I said, what about Grace? Didn't she graduate from high school? Couldn't she go to the training? And he said, well, we can't afford it. And I just looked at him, and then he said, do you think SowHope would pay for that? I said, maybe you should write an application and see what they say. So he did. And I can tell you, thanks to our donors, we were able to fund that project. We sent Grace to school. She's finishing up in a few months. And now the woman who took the first microloan will work for the daughter that she worked so hard for to finish school. And women all around that area will have medically sound baby deliveries of their babies. When you help women, you help their children. And when you help their children, that makes for a very bright future. The second point I want to make to you tonight about women helping women, the other unintended consequence that surprised me was the immense generosity of women. We were just amazed at microloan clubs that were 2, 3 years old. When we'd go back to visit them, they would say things to us. Microloans in Kenya, Nigeria, Bangladesh. All these women said this to me, and they didn't know the other people were saying it. We're doing so well now. All of our children are in school. We have cows, we have gardens. We're rich now. We are saving money to give to SowHope to help other women who are poorer than us. This was stunning to me. There are women living on about $4 or $5 a day who are putting aside money to give to SowHope, to give to women in other countries who are poorer than them. This is what women do. They don't just help their children. They help their neighbors. They hire their neighbors when they get their businesses going, and then they think about how they can help women in situations worse than theirs. It is absolutely humbling to be with them. So when you help women, you're not helping just their children. You're initiating a chain reaction that will ultimately be beneficial to the whole world. Because when women help their communities, better communities make better nations. Better nations make a better world. You've got to start the ball going. And I'm telling you, one of the best ways to do it is to help women. Which leads me to my third point that I have found as a surprise, something I've learned about helping women. Impoverished women live in areas of great conflict. It turns out that we have formed partnerships and funded projects in 4 of the 10 countries with major wars. And we're in negotiations to start a partnership with another organization that's helping women from 3 more of those 10 nations. There's nothing like a war to bring about the destruction of land, limb, love, and life. I visited a village of one of our partners, Sarah. She was in the original thing, Sarah from Nigeria. Went to visit her to see how the projects were going. She had reached out to about 10 villages of very impoverished women. She's in a city, and I was going to see these different projects. We were coming back from the airport, going to her house, and she said, "Mayor, we have to stop at a village, and we need to comfort some people." I said, "Oh, okay, so what happened?" She said, "Well, Boko Haram was here 3 days ago, and they killed 197 men, women, and children in the village. And we need to stop and talk to the people who survived." I said, "Oh, okay." I can tell you that I didn't feel like I had much to give those people. They were telling us unbelievable horror stories of how their loved ones were killed. All we could offer them was to listen, to cry with them, and to pray with them. We left there, we got in the car. After about a 3-hour visit, I said to Sarah, how does this work? How do they do these attacks? What do they do? She said, oh, well, they like to go to small towns off of main roads. As we were pulling off a main road into her small town. And I kind of had that look on my face, and I said, she said, yeah, it's kind of like our town. Our town would be a target. I said, oh. I said, so what's the MO? What do you do when they come? What do you do? How do you survive? What are you supposed to do? She said, well, you have to run. I said, run where? She said, you run away from them and as fast as you can because they will cut you down with machetes. I said, okay, it's in the middle of the night. Well, could you just hide in the room? Could you just hide under the beds? No, they throw gas into the rooms and burn you out. Okay, that won't work. Have you guys thought about digging tunnels or holes to go hide in when they come? No, we haven't. That's a good idea. I said, okay, do you have a gun? I don't have a gun. I don't want to get into that topic, but I'm not a gun person, but I'm not against, I believe in the Second Amendment. It's just, I love everybody, okay? But I asked her, do you have a gun? And she said, no, we're not allowed. Except for hunting, I guess, or something. I said, okay, well, I guess we'll run. So we basically spent every night listening for noises. And I can tell you, it's absolutely terrifying to live in that kind of a situation. Terrorism is powerful. I'll say it was the worst week of my life. For fear, at least. One night I walked into the bedroom and I saw some headlights. It was about 11 o'clock at night. I said, Sarah, there's some headlights. We went to the window, we're standing there looking, and she says, oh my gosh, all the cars are in the village already. And we watched the headlights coming toward us. They were breathing rapidly, adrenaline's flowing, and thankfully the headlights turned and went back to the main road. But I can tell you it was just a terrible night. We had morning prayers every day, and nobody missed those. It's amazing. The Our Father makes a lot more sense, especially that part about deliver us from evil. Really became very real. It turns out that women who are empowered, I mean, living in that situation is terrible. It's a terrible feeling to live in war. We have some friends who are just amazing partners. Let me see where I'm in these pictures. Recently, I went to South Sudan with David Bowman and Cassie Arsenault and Erica. We went on a team to meet Mary Gerain. We went to meet Mary Gerain. David Bowman, who lives 4 miles from me in Rockford, he adopted 5 South Sudanese boys several years ago. And 12 years ago, he asked his boys, what do you guys need in South Sudan? They said, Dad, we need a hospital. He said, okay, let's build a hospital. So David has been going back and forth to South Sudan to build a hospital there in Workuck. He met me because a friend of ours put us together. And we were talking to each other about what we're doing. We're very excited, very kindred spirits. And David said, you help women, you need to come to South Sudan to help our women. I said, okay, do you have a leader there that's already helping them? That's the way we do it. We go through local leaders who use local solutions to solve local problems. He said, we do. So we went to meet Mary. I went with one of our founding board members, my buddy Pam, Dr. Pam Oker. And we went on this team. And Erica and Cassie and Pam and I went and met with the women. We met with women from 2 towns to hear what they needed. So we asked them, what do you need? And overwhelmingly, the women would stand up and say, we need peace. We need peace. We live in a war zone. Matter of fact, the town where the hospital is used to have 15,000 people in it, and now there's just a handful, and they're the bravest people because they've gone back to try to try to get life to go back there. We had one woman get up in the middle of the room. She came to the middle of the room and she literally, slowly, dramatically laid herself down, lowered herself down to the floor with her face to the dirt floor. And she got up and she said, "We are a people of the dust. We need peace." And I had made the mistake of telling them in my introduction that I used to work at the White House as a photographer. And one woman said to me in no uncertain terms, "You go back to the White House and you tell them to come here and make peace." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry. I can tell you that we cannot bring peace to South Sudan. Peace will only happen in South Sudan when the majority of the people have peace in their heart. And the only way you're going to find peace in your heart is if you can find the power to forgive your enemies. Then you'll be set free to become everything you were supposed to be. And you'll be able to be free from your bitterness and your fear." And they looked at me sort of, incredulously. And I thought to myself, easy for you to say. You haven't gone through what they've gone through. You haven't lost. You haven't watched your kids be killed. You haven't had to run for your life. You haven't seen your house burned down. But I know it's true. But we left South Sudan. We actually did tell them, "Look, you can submit a project and we'll try to help you. What would you do to better your lives?" And both groups decided they wanted to plant a community garden because they need food. So the women got together and they said, "Okay, we'd like you to give us a grant so each town started a community garden." And that was their first project. And they're working on it right now. So Pam and I left and we went to Kenya to visit our partner there, Josephine. Now I can tell you, Bonnie's met Josephine. You'll be lucky to meet a person like Josephine in your life. She's one in a million. She is the bravest person I know. We have always been impressed with her. We've done a grain mill project with her. She helps AIDS widows. She helps orphans. She starts small groups, gets them to get together to be support groups for each other. Then she gives them seed money so they can invest in themselves. And they usually start out by they pick one person in the group to get a goat, and they always pick the poorest woman. And I said to the groups one time, I said, "Boy, you picked the poorest woman. I mean, do you feel bad that you didn't get the money?" And they say, "Oh no, she has it so much worse than us that we're happy for her." And then when that goat has a baby, then they give it to the next person and the next person and the next person, and they all celebrate. They all celebrate when they get to prosper. Josephine is exceedingly brave. She has a great, compassionate heart. She's terrible at writing grant applications. But she's amazing at thinking up and executing cutting-edge projects that inspire deep cultural shifts that benefit women who live in the precipice of total despair. She picks the lowest of the low to help. Now, Josephine, I wish we really should write a book about her because her story is so incredible. But Josephine one time told me the story that she's a Kikuyu, and in Kenya there's several tribes, but there's two main tribes, and when there's a war they fight each other. And during the 2008 elections there were terrible clashes, tribally and politically. They're politically linked. And the Colley Jr tribe, this time, the Colley Jr tribe was attacking the Kikuyus, and they were killing them mercilessly. They would go, they live right next to each other, they live in their villages, but they cross the road and they would kill. And she told me that while these clashes were going on, that she called together the local elected officials in her town and and the religious leaders, and they had a meeting, and she told them, that war stops here, because we're going to commit to each other that we're not going to kill each other. When it gets here, I'm not going to kill you, you're not going to kill him, she's not going to kill you, we're not going to kill each other. It's going to stop here. And she told me that story in the room of the UN IDP camp headquarters, because that's where the war stopped, and that's where they built the IDP camp. Josephine doesn't have any official title, but when you ride in the car with her, her little broken down Toyota, she's yelling out at every person that we go by. Johnny, I heard you weren't in school the other day. Sue, how's your grandpa? She knows everybody. Everybody knows her. And she is a true leader. She's asked us to do some amazing projects. The latest thing that she did, we got an email. Can you send $26,000? We want to do a seminar. Now we have a program team committee, then they're very organized, and they have an application, and there's 15 slots on that application, and you get graded on every application on what's filled out. And they have a rubric. And they stick to that. And we have a system at SowHope, for crying out loud. And I would come back from the field, and people travel with me, and then we'd say, well, you know, with Josephine, you kind of, you know, I think what she wants is this. I think I remember her saying something about that, and they're like, well, you can't, that doesn't count. You can't, she used to fill out an application. It's only 3 pages, for crying out loud. Then I took that team to Kenya. And my dear friend, who was complaining the most, Doreen, about how badly Josephine fills out her applications and how I kept defending it. And Doreen came up to me the second day and she said, Mary, I have to quit the program team because I will never look at an application the same way again. So Josephine asked for $26,000 for a 5-day seminar for 100 people. And we're like, man, that's kind of high. And we're like, yeah, but it's Josephine. And we have learned to trust Josephine. When we left South Sudan, we went to Kenya to find out how did that seminar go. We did fund it. Pam and I went down to Kenya, got in the car with Josephine. She started to tell us about the project. And I actually told Pam, man, she better have a good explanation for this. My neck's on the line for this one. We got in the car. She said, Mary, we took a friend. I have a friend who's on the Colley Jr. They went to school together in the capital city. I forgot to tell you something before. Josephine was one of the first Kikuyu to cross the line to go visit the Colley Jr. She was invited by her friend at school. She was telling him about the development that SowHope was providing for the women. And he said, Josephine, you have to come and help our women. And she said, oh, I will. And then he said, oh, no, you can't come. No, of course you can't come. She said, John, I said I would come, and I will come. She went back to her staff and she said, hey, we're going to go to the Colley Jr. and we're going to train them on development. And her staff looked at her and they said, you might be going to the Colley Jr., but none of us are. And when you leave, we'll say goodbye because we know they'll kill you. She got her little broken down Toyota, went over there. She was 3 hours late because it did break down. Her friend was very afraid for her, and he was astounded when she told him that some Colley Jr. had helped her fix the car. She got there, she spent the weekend. She actually took me to that group the next time I went there, and the women in that group told me, if we had known Josephine in 2008, we wouldn't have killed any Kikuyu. We didn't know they were this good. Josephine has amazing power to cross those lines. So she told me that her friend, John, and her came up with this idea that they would each invite 50 people from their tribes. They had the conference at a neutral location, and the people started showing up, and they didn't have any idea who was going to be there. And when they saw that it was different tribes, they were asking, what's going on? What are they doing here? Why are they here? Josephine said, hey, you're here for a community development conference. We're going to be giving out microloan seed money for groups, for microloan groups at the end of the week. That's it. You want to stay? Stay. If you don't, leave. About half the people left. They started the conference. The conference was so good, the people called their friends and they came back and they brought 15 more people. By the end of the week, they had 115 people there. And she told them at the end of the week, this is only going to work. You're only going to prosper if you buy from each other. You have to go across the road and buy from each other. The economy will only go on if you do that. So they had a great seminar. That's what she told me. So then we drove up and we got to the place where this widows group that I had visited before, I really liked this group, they were going to tell me about their experience at the conference. So we go in and they're showing me their micro loan, how they're doing it, and they're paying their loans, and we're investing in ourselves. They were so excited. We're so rich now, they said. Then one of them said to me, but you know what? On the second day of that conference, we told Josephine, you see that guy over there, Josephine? That guy is the leader of the raiders that killed our husbands, burned our houses, and stole our cattle. He actually killed some of our husbands. That guy right there, sitting right there. They told me, we were so mad at Josephine that she would let that guy in the room. Josephine waited a few minutes, let them cool down. She said, look, you've been hearing the principles about community development. You want to prosper. You need to heal from that war. That will never happen unless you forgive him. They thought about it. They said, we thought about it, and we decided. We went outside and we talked about it. And we said, we want to heal and we want to prosper. So we decided to forgive him. We came back in and we told him we'd forgive him. And they said, you know what? Now he helps us. We want peace in the world. We need brave people like Josephine who will cross the road and make friends. I said to David, after I got back from Kenya, I called up David, or we had lunch or something, we got together. I said, David, you've been to South Sudan a number of times. He said, yeah, 18 times. David is a Josephine, by the way. He's the same kind of guy, same heart. We were in South Sudan, and he kept telling everybody, we got to get this road fixed from the city to this town. We need to get this done. Nobody was listening. He'd let me talk to the governor. Let me talk to the road commissioner. Let me talk to the mayor. Let me talk to the president. Get me in. Got to get this road fixed. We're not going to have people aren't going to come back here, use this hospital, live in this town unless we get this road fixed. And literally after a couple of days, we were all kind of in the background going, gosh, David, I don't think anybody's listening to you. All the people kind of, but he has an audience. He talks to these people. By the way, the road did get fixed. We left, and a week later, they fixed the road in one day. And that weekend, 15,000 people came back for a celebration. I asked David, you've met with all these different kinds of people, pastors, religious leaders, government officials, businessmen. How many of them ever asked for peace? Talk about peace. He thought about it. He said, Mary, in all my meetings, not one man has ever mentioned that they need peace. And at our meetings, every other woman said, we need peace. You want peace in the world? We need to start giving women a little more voice. course, I was very encouraged to hear that story of forgiveness. And I said to Josephine in the car on the way out, Josephine, would you be willing to go to South Sudan and help Mary? She said, yes, I will. Josephine is another person, I don't know how she has time to do half the stuff she does. She invited Mary to come down. She had a few more trainings this year that we supported. She invited Mary to come down. Mary went to 2 trainings, and this past week, I got a letter from both of them. They have come up with a plan to have Josephine go to South Sudan in March, and together they will hold the first training there. These women will be from one tribe, but the goal will be to get them trained and developed so they can reach out for peace making in the future. These leaders know how far they can push the cultural envelope, and they show little fear in doing so. If we want peace in the world, we might want to rethink women's leading role in bringing it about. They told me that they have become as close as sisters. I just want to conclude now. Let me say that if you want to help poor children, help women. If you want to increase the generosity of the world, help women. If you want global peace, help women. There is no greater, more effective or efficient way to bring about these things than to helping women. Please join us as we inspire women and discover the unintended and wonderful consequences of doing so. You'll be part of making the world a much better place. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Okay, I'll take any questions you have. Thank you so much. I will take any question. I don't care what it is. So I think there's probably some coming up. You can shout one out if you want in the meanwhile.
Mary?
Yep. Marge.
On this card, there's no address. In case you don't have your checkbook, where do we mail it?
Wow. Okay. Alan will, she wanted to know where you can mail a check. All of you that want to know how to mail a check. Your hosts will have envelopes, but Alan will be yeah, thank you. He'll be giving you the instructions in a second about that. Thank you, Marge. Thank you for asking that question, Marge.
The address is on the pen.
Oh, the address is on the pen. No kidding. And we have envelopes too, so. Okay, here's a question. Thank you. How do you maintain composure when working with women in such tragic, emotion-evoking situations? Yeah, I wouldn't say I don't do that well, actually. We often break down. Hey, Bonnie. Sometimes usually if there's usually a couple of us are traveling, one person, can keep it going, but yeah, we've had some pretty massive breakdowns. And the truth is that the fact that we are not just going to hear the problems, but we're going to hear the solutions and to help them bring solutions, it really brings hope to them. So even in South Sudan, when we first got there, we noticed that all the meetings that we had, we would have like a prayer meeting in the morning, and they would sing a song. They wouldn't even sing at first, and then we'd say, well, don't you guys sing? and then they would sing and it would be like a dirge. And we were kind of shocked at how sad it was. And then we had the meeting where the lady had laid down, and then we'd said, look, we can't bring peace, but we can do this. We want you to start thinking about how you can improve your lives, because we want to partner with you to improve your lives. So you need to come up with a project that you want to do, and then we'll partner with you on that. And when we left the church, they found a garbage, it was like a plastic paint can for us. They turned it over and they started drumming and they started dancing. And it was amazing. So we get to see, we hear the terrible things, but because of our mission, we get to offer some hope, and we get to see them begin to transform. And actually, when you go back the second, third, fourth time, it is amazing. I think I lost track of my notes, but there was a lady in Kenya who had been one of those widows. And when we first saw her, she couldn't even smile. She could barely talk. And when I met with her that last time, to find out about the microfinance, she said, Mary, we're so rich now. We're so rich. We all have chickens. We each have 2 cows at least. Now we have gardens, and we're growing more food than we could ever eat. We're selling it in the market. We're so rich. This is a person who could barely talk 4 years earlier. And now she said, now we're saving money for you. So that's how you do it.
How do you decide which countries to go to?
We basically decide by finding local leaders. For example, David was the perfect example. I met David. He's working in South Sudan. They want me to come to South Sudan. Do you have a leader helping women? Yes, we do. Then we go. Then we help that leader. That's how we decide. It's all referrals and relationships. And we don't fund anybody unless we have a pretty strong, that kind of, when David told me, yes, we have a great leader. Okay, let's go. So it's based on referral and trust and relationships. And they know that too. Did that answer your question? Okay. How much US dollars does it take to start microloans on average? Average is about $35. The first microloan is usually around $30, $35. They go up to about $500.
How about some of the reactions from local men watching the gals?
It's amazing. As the women gain dignity, they gain self-respect. It transfers into the culture, and the men begin to respect the women too. Where women have been empowered in a way that's culturally, culturally appropriate, the men can come along with it. Matter of fact, when we go to a village, we don't go first to the women. We always go to the leaders first, and we tell them. We go to the chiefs, and we say, hey, we're here. We're a group that we help women. We love men, but we just want to help women, and we think they need more help. But we won't do it unless you say it's okay. And you have to tell the village that it's okay. And so they like that. And they'll take us down to the center of the village and they say, okay, these people, they're going to be helping the women, so don't bribe them and don't get in their way. And I actually went back to one village where we had been working for about 3 years, and I said to the chief, because at first he said, well, why don't you just help the men? And I said, oh, well, we just think that women, we're just a group that wants to help women. And he was okay. So I went back and I said, now, Chief, we've been doing this now for 3 years, so at first you wanted me to help the men. What do you think now after 3 years? What do you think about us having helped the women? He said, oh, yeah, that was definitely the right thing, because you give that money to the men and it's gone, new hat, new suit. It's kind of backwards there. I don't want to be too disparaging, but the poorer people are and the poorer the country, the more backwards the situation is. Men don't work in those situations as much. Generally, they're kind of hanging out in the town, at the market. If there's a market, they're running the market. If there's a bank, they're running the bank. If there's a vehicle, they're driving the vehicle. But the hard labor, being done by impoverished people is largely done by women. And I'm talking hard labor. When there's a road project, the women are carrying the gravel. They're shoveling it by hand. The men are driving the bulldozers. But what you'll see in almost every village is guys hanging out, smoking hookahs, drinking tea, playing cards, playing games, talking. I mean, I now have so many pictures of guys playing games. I actually have one. I need to get it together. It's of us walking out of the chief's house. His wife is there working like crazy. She's pounding the wheat. It's hot as can be. And he walks right by her to go over and play a game with about 5 guys sitting in the shade. And you're like, okay, this is what I'm talking about right here. So, but we can't, we have to do it in a culturally respectful way. We don't want to go in and cause problems for the women. If you do too much too fast, it can actually hurt the women. So we really want the men to come alongside the women. And what happens is when we do it respecting the men, and every leader knows how to do this. They do it all differently, but they all know how to engage the men somehow so that they feel like they're a part of it. And what happens is as the women grow in their businesses, the men begin to work and they begin to help their wives. It's really a beautiful thing.
Does this change the rape culture a bit? How are women more? And then the animals?
That's a good question. You know, we're going to be heading back to the DRC in 2 weeks, and we're going to be visiting with one of the groups that we help. There is a group of women who've been raped in the eastern part of Congo, and they are just they have serious problems, and so we help with that. We're funding a project that helps their emotional care, their physical care, and we'll interview them. And that's something I need to learn more about how that's going. I don't know what happens when you empower those women. I don't know how the culture is responding to them. I will say this, that, well, I do know. The first 5 women I ever met from the Congo, they kept saying, most of the husbands have more than one wife. They have 3 or 4 wives, and they kind of pick whichever wife has the most to offer them. And the wives are responsible for the kids. The dads are not responsible for the kids. The kids are responsible for the dad. So this woman, she'd gotten raped in the war, and her husband, she had 5 kids, and he left her because she got raped. The stigma of rape is terrible on women. And you'd think that people would gather around them, but they don't. They actually reject them. No husband wants to be married to a woman who's been raped. So this woman, Mary Catherine, had said, you know, my husband, he doesn't want to be with me, and he doesn't want to be with my kids, and he'll never want to be with us. And I had said to them, you know, can I pray for you? And she said, pray that my husband will want me back. And I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to pay my kids' school fees, and then maybe he'll want me back. And I'm kind of thinking, sheesh, what do you want him back for? But that was her prayer request, and so I did pray that. And literally, a year and a half later, our partner wrote to us and said, Mary Catherine wants you to know that her husband has taken her back, which is unbelievable. So I'm wondering if it does, it must help.
That's the literacy prevents.
Well, as we start to educate women, it does help them. Women going to literacy classes, them understanding their rights, understanding the laws. We met women in India, and they said, we love India, because their literacy class was teaching them their laws and their rights. And they're not practiced, but they have rights, but they don't know it. So in the literacy class, they're being told that, and they're like, we love India. India loves women. Well, now they know how to speak out for it. So, yeah, the literacy classes are a huge help to women. They can stand up and they can say, you can't do that to me anymore. Knowledge is power, and women don't have knowledge. Impoverished women don't. So if you give them a little knowledge, it really helps them. Is that it? Okay. Thank you all. You're an awesome audience. I'll turn it over to Alan, and he'll close us off here. Thank you so much.
Great job. So, anyone got any better stories than that? That's usually the way that goes. Makes you feel kind of crappy about being a guy though, doesn't it? Must be one good one there somewhere. I mean, who drives the bus? So, I think we can all agree that the work that SowHope does is necessary, it's highly worthwhile, and it's life-changing for the people that it touches. And one of the things I've said before, and I don't mean this to be in any way demeaning of the people, but the tragedy of it is how, in the big scheme of things, how pathetically small an amount of money it takes to change somebody's life. This isn't tens of thousands of dollars to achieve a result. It's very small, relatively small amounts of money that can do great things. I want to make a distinction as well, that though SowHope is a charity, it doesn't actually dispense charity. And Mary corrected me and said charity means love, and SowHope has that in spades. But we all know the story that buy a man a fish, you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, and you'll never see him at the weekend again. So, ladies, if you don't like your husband, hey. My favorite one, though, is build a man a fire, you keep him warm all night. Set a man on fire, you keep him warm for the rest of his life. But SowHope does not build a fire. SowHope does not give someone a fish. SowHope gives somebody help. They give them help, and the help gives them hope. And the economic projects that SowHope does are their loans. These are not gifts, they're loans that are made to people so people can change their lives, the lives of their families, and the lives of their communities. So Mary has shared some great stories, and every year, you don't think she's going to top last year, and every year she manages to do it. And that's what I meant earlier when I said these are real, these are now, this is what SowHope is all about. Unfortunately, there are many, many more seeds to sow and many more harvests to gather because, as Mary said earlier, half the world's population is in the demographic for SowHope, but there's no shortage of deserving people. SowHope wants to have a greater global impact, and we can see how it can change lives. We hear the gratitude from the people who it's helped, and we witness the hope that it gives to people. We see in those people that they are empowered, probably for the first time in their lives, to actually direct their own futures and can take control of their lives. All of us have our own reasons for giving. My wife and I have given to SowHope for a number of years, and we started because, like Mary, my wife was interested in helping a charity that focused on helping women, and so we gave because it seemed like a good idea. And we continued to give because of the kind of stories that you've heard from Mary tonight, and because in terms of bang for your buck, I cannot imagine where your contributions can achieve more in the lives of people who need help than through SowHope. Of course, to do all this takes money, and it's why we tricked you into coming here tonight. We want your money. This is the main fundraising event of the year for SowHope, and you've heard lots of examples that hopefully will inspire you to either become a first-time donor, to increase your donation, or increase the regularity of your donation. I want to throw some statistics at you, some of which you've already heard. But to date, SowHope has been doing its work for 9 years. They have run projects in 15 countries. They have managed 118 projects and helped 59,000 women. 59,000 women. And all of that has been done with the help of 1,500 donors. Just imagine what we could do if we doubled the number of donors that we have. We need your help to get there, and we need your help to increase SowHope's global impact. Some people like to make one-time contributions. Some people like to do what public radio calls be sustaining members, which is making a monthly or a quarterly contribution. Just like us, SowHope likes a regular paycheck. It helps with planning, and monthly or quarterly donations are very good for us. Your support, whether it's first time, whether you're increasing, or whether you're increasing the frequency, all will help SowHope to extend its global reach, and for Mary to come back next year and humble us all with stories of real hardship, deprivation, and unimaginable lives without hope. And if you are interested in making a difference in the lives of those people, there is no better way to do that than through SowHope. So what is it worth to you to be a supporter of SowHope? You're here tonight because you have some interest and wanted to know more about what SowHope does. Hopefully now you have a good picture of what it is that SowHope does. You can turn that interest into real life-changing support by becoming a contributor to SowHope tonight. Ask yourself what you're prepared to do to help the people as you've heard Mary describe tonight. $100 a month would put you in the top tier of contributors to SowHope and go a long way toward funding a SowHope project. If you look at the table cards that you have in front of you, your table place cards, flip it over. You can see you have some options on the bottom there about ways to contribute. You can pay with cash, you can pay with check, you can pay with a credit card. If you want to make a contribution with a credit card, we'd like you to fill out that card and place it in the envelope on your desk, on your tables, and then those envelopes are going to be put in a lockbox, so your card details will be safe. Otherwise, we're going to have a very long line for people. If you do want to make a credit card contribution, we do have a mobile pay station over at the front. But for those of you who can make a contribution tonight, and especially those of you who can make a sustained contribution to SowHope tonight, thank you. If you would like to give some more consideration to what level or frequency you'd like to make, you can check that box, and SowHope will contact you to discuss it further shortly. On behalf of the women and the communities experiencing the hardships that we have heard about and who are benefiting from the harvest of hope, thank you for coming tonight, and please give as generously as you can. Thank you. Okay, I've been told I have to say good night now, so good night now.